Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griff and I are reacting to the Seahawks' disappointing Week 15 defeat at home to the Green Bay Packers. But first, the preamble. Griff, I have a preamble topic for you.
Okay.
By the way, if you haven't, chat, please do share the podcast and like the video. It does boost us. My preamble topic, Griff, is mince pies.
Okay. Like minced meat.
No.
Oh dear. Oh no. Oh no.
Yes, you did it. You answered in the way I was hoping you'd answer. No, so every Christmas in the United Kingdom, we have something called a mince pie.
Oh, we talked about this last year.
Did we?
I think so.
Oh, never mind. Well, they're delicious.
I remember clearly.
You still haven't had one?
So minced meat. So it's
dear.
But it's not actual meat. It's
Axel remembers we've done this before. Never mind. You're a true overloader, Axel. Anyway, I would love a mince pie right now. I was at thrilling story, but I was at the shops yesterday and I only had I was walking and I had only so many bags that I could carry, and I was on my own, and I wanted to get mince pies, but they would have been the mince pies which broke the camel's back, or in that case, my back.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I'm now without mince pies. Anyway,
now, are there savory renditions of the mince pie? Can you put actual meat in there?
No, that's insane because this is sugar and booze. Like it's you can get a meat pie, of course.
Okay, or like ham pie or empanada. Yeah.
Any pie you want. No, not empanada.
It becomes something ontologically different at that point when you put meat in it.
The filling is called mince meat, but it's actually just fruit and suet soaked in like booze and like sugar, and it's delicious.
I mean, technically, isn't the part of fruit that we eat like inside the skin called the flesh, or even sometimes the meat, like the meat of the apple?
Yes.
So I mean, it kind of works.
I think mince pies, I think they have there's like a Middle Eastern origin to the mince meat.
Yeah.
Like the spices and...
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Matty, real quick, rapid fire. World peace, for or against? I said
sorry, I had to, it's quite a complicated question. Had to think that one through there. I'm going to say I'm for world peace.
Same. Dude, same. I was going to say the same thing. We're like right on.
Yeah, well, you've clearly thought in great detail about it, and, I didn't know what was coming, so...
Yeah. World peace is one of my favorite things. Wish we had more of it.
I was going to say, you've experienced world peace? Like, you know that you like it? Maybe you hate it.
You never know until you try, I guess, Wow.
How about Twitter peace?
No, that would make it a lot less boring.
Oh, right.
Man, this sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. Should we start the podcast? Should we talk about what sucks?
Yeah, hit it, Matty.
Oh my gosh, this name it always cracks me up seeing you in here. It's good to see your name again. What? It's just not appropriate.
Creme de la Pounce.
Nice accent there. Okay.
Hit it, Matty.
Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where the Seattle Seahawks have fallen to 8-6 on the season in a 30-13 home defeat, hosting the Green Bay Packers. This was a highly anticipated match on a Sunday night in front of the nation. Collinsworth doing his thing, and an opportunity for Seattle to establish themselves as a leading NFC contender, really solidify their playoff positioning, all that type of stuff. Instead, they're now second place in the NFC West. They're right on the fringes. Washington winning today means they're actually on the outside looking in. And Griff, ultimately, I think this was a reality check even before the injury to Geno Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you faced a. I don't know if they're an elite team. Maybe if you want to sub-tier the elite teams, they're like in that, like the B tier of the elite teams. What are there, like 5 or 6 this year? They're probably the fifth or sixth best team, right?
It was interesting seeing that NBC graphic that they threw up where the Packers, 4 losses are to the Lions, the Vikings, and another very good team,
Eagles.
Yeah. So they're like the tier 2 type team, right?
Right. I mean, yeah. So this game was going to be a litmus test, a measuring stick game, right? And we went into it with. I mean, I thought they were going to win. I thought they matched up better with Green Bay than they do the Vikings. I mean, I thought they were going to get slaughtered by the Vikings, and I thought they were going to win a close one against Green Bay. And obviously, that didn't happen. Now, they didn't get demolished this game, even though the score was, 30-12 or whatever, or 30-13. It was kind of a garbage time touchdown. Had Geno stayed in, maybe they put together another scoring drive. They'd probably lose still. But, I mean, the defense kind of found its footing the second half before giving up those 2 explosive plays that kind of killed it. So, But it wasn't like their structure was failing across the board, whereas in the first half of the game, their structure just crumbled. And in ways that makes you wonder, are they regressing again? The stuff that they improved at. Like I said before the game, that this game was going to be won on first down. That's the area where Seattle, even since they've improved across the board, they're like average on first down. And then before that being downright awful, right? It's great to go from like 30th to 15th and something. And then their second downs were incredible, even second and short, second and medium, third downs elite, right? But Green Bay was elite on first downs all season long, and they simply won the first down matchup to such a degree that it nullified what Seattle can do on second and third downs. At least in the first half. Again, second half they rebounded it a little bit, but it was too little, too late.
Yeah. So we'll obviously talk about the defense, but the main storyline out of this one, and it's a weird game because it felt like it lasted forever. It felt like so many different things occurred, but the major incident was Geno Smith leaving the game with what initially looked like an ankle injury. Since then was reported by the team as a knee issue. He kind of got rolled up on the back of his right leg. I don't know if you're a quarterback, if a right leg or left leg's more important. I guess as a right-handed quarterback, probably your right leg, because that's, if you're dropping back, that's what you plant off. But anyway, Geno left the game. When did that happen? Like midway through the third quarter?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe a bit earlier. Let's find a timestamp for when that happened. But Griff, so it happened. It happened, midway through the third quarter. I nailed it. 7 minutes, 9 seconds. Where do you want to start with Geno? We can talk about the impact of this injury on the team, and we don't know the severity of it. Mike McDonald spoke afterwards about them not knowing yet, and obviously there'll be scans that they do tomorrow. McDonald said he wanted to re-enter the game. He was planning to on the drive where Sam Howell threw a pick six. But before that, Griff, you could say that Geno and the offense struggled.
Yeah.
They went four plays and punted. They put together a field goal drive, which stalled in kind of classic fashion. Geno sacked on a 3rd and 2. Then they have their longest drive of the game, which ends in a poor interception from Geno Smith. What did you make of the Geno offense before we talk about what Sam Howell might mean for this team?
Yeah, so it's actually, I think it's a little more interesting than the 13-point total might suggest. Obviously, the interception, let's get that out of the way. That was a bad play by Geno. Nothing was open, which is indicative of other things too. And Matty, you might have a different opinion on that. I mean, I knew I think I saw what he was trying to do. I think he knew he was throwing into a jump ball situation. He was expecting the receiver to make a late jump to the ball, like working back to it to kind of snipe the DB. But in that situation, third down, I mean, you're risking, not getting a field goal. But I mean, before we even unpack the interception, like the issue with the red zone offense is that it sucks. And the entire way they design it, I think, is the completely wrong, like, ethos of what they need to be doing down there. But Matty, what did you think?
Well, you can't. That's just a tease. You need to elaborate on that.
Okay, so all these interceptions occurring in the red zone, right? First, we have to before you there's 6 of them, I think. 2 of them, maybe 3, are complete bullshit in terms of it's just bad luck. And when it seems like a lot of bad luck is happening, it's hard to accept that. But I really think a lot of it is variance. This is one play that was bad. But if you look at the interceptions that aren't bullshit, that are like, hey, Geno, you shouldn't do that, there's a common theme. They're all airy, lofty throws because the entire red zone offense is built off of airy, lofty, arcing throws on a short field. Those types of because they're rhythm timing throws, which means that the entire offense is built off of isolation routes. These receivers are not good isolation receivers on those types of throws. They need to they can receive those types of balls on a long field, or they need to be breaking into space or sit down in space, and Geno needs to read the defense out and get that. That's Geno's strength, is reading the defense out and puncturing holes in the defense. But the play calls don't allow for that, don't call on that. So what gets you into the red zone, even though they're not that great this year in the open field because they're just not really a good offense across the board. But like say last year, they were a top 3 offense outside of the red zone, right? What gets them into the red zone are types of plays that they completely abandon, like the types of the techniques, the principles of it. They get into something that they are not, essentially, once they get into the red zone. They're schematically, they become a completely different team. And we can take this even further. Like Geno's stats this year in the red zone from yards like 12 out, 12 to the 20 are fine. They're perfectly normal. High success rate, like 12th in EPA or something. It's as soon as they get inside the 12 is when it all starts to fall apart. I think they need to just invest in completely different offense. The best moments in my mind, in my own working memory of Geno in the red zone is them running mesh in particular, and then plays that are designed to look like mesh, and then it's actually like mesh return, stuff like that, where they dress it up. And why is that? Well, there's a lot of moving parts. These receivers are fast. The way you simulate a long field on a short field is by having them run horizontally. The field is wider than it is long. You give Geno just a tick of time, and he'll read it out, and then he'll throw to the open guy. But they're calling on things that require the receivers to leave their feet. This receiving room is one of the best receiving rooms in the NFL, and yet when they have to leave their feet, they're one of the worst receiving rooms in the NFL. So, like, these interceptions, even though we can put them on Geno, they don't happen if you call a different kind of offense, because they're not coming in the other context. If you isolate Geno's plays in the red zone, which are like progression drop back passes, and you just put a cut up of that tape looks pretty solid. But all this other stuff, it's at the systemic. I don't think there's a Geno pathology in the red zone. I think it's a downstream effect of other things. You can still criticize Geno for the picks. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You can still criticize him. But I just think there's more things at play. So
I'm just making notes there.
And the other note is this isn't just a grub thing. Like Waldron did it last year, and it was frustrating.
That was a big critique. Like you obviously were very balanced and fair, I think, in your analysis of Waldron, which not to big you up too much, but you're always trying to do that. But that was your one real critique of him, wasn't it? The red zone approach.
Yeah.
So on the pick, my view of the pick is obviously it's a poor decision from Geno. He needed just to take a sack. He's got 2 guys screaming up the A gap. The timing was weird on the play where I think they thought that Green Bay had jumped off sides, or maybe that they had false started. They're surprised there was no whistles blown, and it's not the first time that in a high leverage spot on the offense, in a spot where it's very important, often a short yardage situation, or like a 3rd and goal, which this was a 3rd and 9 in the goal area, that they've had a procedural kind of pre-snap like hesitancy where the timings look janked up and messed up. So poor decision from Geno to throw that. Anyway, with all that said, the other factor on that play though, Griff, is I think Lockett. So he's running the outside route that the corner was initially on and then peeled off. Lockett kind of stops running his route, and it enables the corner to start going, oh, ball's not coming out here. I can get my eyes back to Geno, even though he's in man-to-man defense, and he peels off it. I think Lockett, if you asked him, would be honest on that, and that he could do a better job there too. And it's kind of a perfect storm. Anyway, so that was a really disappointing pick, but
that's a good point, yeah.
What was also the case in that pick was Jalen Sundell came in the game as a center. That was because Olu Oluwatimi, who took the job after Connor Williams retired, was seen with a cast on his knee, or not a cast. I guess it is a cast, like an ice pack on his knee. And I think it was reported as a calf/knee issue for Olu, but he's out the game. Mike McDonald said he didn't know how long that would be. And Sundell, I believe, did okay. Like, he looked really good pulling outside on those runs. Collinsworth was excited about him getting out in space. He had some good pass pro reps where they tried to test him early, sending a linebacker up the A-gap. I also have in mind, the Geno pick, and then the play Geno got hurt on. It may not have been on Sundell, but you also think about how not just he's pass protecting, but what type of pass protection call they have in. But that was a guy screaming unblocked up the A-gap on Geno off gun play action, which I don't want to pin that all on Sundell, but it's certainly a factor. What was also a factor in the game, not just the third string center coming in, and I think he did okay, to be honest, was the fact that the Packers were able to sack Seattle's quarterback 7 times. The quick pressure rate was very high. I know they flashed up a graphic on Sunday Night Football. And it's not the first time, Griff, that the O-line struggled, but it's also not the first time I've felt that the play calling is putting them in spots and situations that is just insane. Like, so taxing and overexposuring, and like Laumea is having a tough time, and you keep putting him one-on-one in clear drop-back situations. You're not varying your protection. And what's your thoughts on all of that, Griff?
Yeah, I agree with you for sure. The structure of the offense is such that it completely undermines whatever Grubb's ideas are going on downfield. It's just he's placing too much stress on his players because of how he varies tendency, how much he passes in this situation, that situation. Defenses have all these numbers on the offense. They to the point where they pretty much know what you're going to do. They can have a pretty good idea. All defenses know what all offenses are going to do. They're going to have a rough idea because they keep, funneling you into different possibilities of what could occur based off the pre-snap indicators. So really good offenses spend a lot of time in hiding that. Mm-hmm. And that's not something Grubb invests in. So he's not giving his players any pre-snap advantage via that. He gives them some advantages, but mostly the receivers, based off of the motions and shifting he can do. But that doesn't touch the O-line though. So it makes it difficult for him. He's tried to mix in more gun running the past couple of weeks, but they've been kind of very specific to certain fronts. And if they're not there, they don't have a gun run game they can't move the ball gun inside zone. Or even gun duo, which is becoming more of a thing. That just doesn't exist for them. So they can only really run the ball out of shotgun when it's a designer call, essentially, or a change-up call. So defenses know they can defend the run without really having to commit many resources to it, and they can continue to just choke out passing lanes. And yeah, I mean, beyond that, like, I don't know. What all did you see there, man? Because obviously we'll need to rewatch the game to get a better feel for it. But
yeah, obviously, this is fresh takes, but I was very surprised, and it seems odd to me almost how they were so heavily like starting off in the opening script under center versus the 49ers, and then it was the next opponent. And then the last 2 weeks, they've opened gun again. And there was very little under center in this game. Even with Geno in the game, very little under center. So that was interesting, I guess. Like the Charbonnet had a long run of 24 yards. That might have been his touchdown carry. He also had another long one, but it was very kind of boom or bust. And ultimately, it felt like the Packers were pursuing really well to that stretch play where they, pull guys and get out on the edge. So then it's, hey, let's have a counter off that, or what's the wrinkle? What's the series, Hey, they've over-adjusted maybe, or they've adjusted well, and they're flowing really hard outside in that direction with the pullers. Do we have a play action that looks like that? No. Do we have a run that looks like that to start off with and then goes the other way, like reverses on them? Not really either. Do we have gun inside zone, Griff, from a similar back split and similar formation? No.
right.
And it was also funny to me that in under center, the one time that they ran duo was right at the end with George Helani. So it's obviously still in the playbook. They've obviously still repped it, but it's getting kind of stuck in these plays and in these modes and not fleshing out like a cohesive plan. And yeah, ultimately, I think Ryan Grubb's in a lot of trouble. Ironically or perversely, Geno Smith getting hurt might save him in that he can point to the fact that his starting quarterback's out, and Sam Howell did come. Go ahead.
No, I was saying maybe, but actually, I mean, I don't want to cut you off there, Matty. My bad, but I think in the eyes of people that don that are willing to don the kind of that gracious mindset, it would. But I don't think ownership thinks about that at all.
And if anything, it leaves him almost more exposed because it leaves very little doubt as to, it kind of highlights how much Geno was doing. I mean, I tweeted after he got injured, but a lot of the good stuff from this offense, a lot of their explosives are Geno making something happen when the play breaks down and connecting with, JSN or previously DK. Or like a busted coverage, which there is some credit given to a play caller when a coverage gets busted, of course. But really, it was kind of Geno making magic happen. And when was the last time they actually had an explosive pass? I mean, I guess today they did get one play action to pop open and hit Tyler Lockett, but they get like one explosive pass a game, two a game. And in structure, it's probably one every other game. Which is embarrassing. Like, that's not...
They had two versus Green Bay, or versus the Jets, right? To DK.
Right.
I mean, even when the 2022 offense regressed, the final third of the season, they still were explosive.
Mm-hmm. So, Nobro asks what happened to DK Metcalf, and why they asked that, I imagine, and thank you for the donation, is Metcalf was held to 3 catches for 28 receiving yards. Obviously, Geno leaving midway through the second half hurts that slightly, but
I think he's
even Collinsworth picked up on the fact that JSN, it felt very loaded how Collinsworth was speaking about the Seahawks offense. And he'd clearly been informed well and also done some good studying there because JSN had 10 catches for 83 yards, and it was just the JSN show. But again, it's that lack of balance and variety and way of getting everyone involved, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was more of a product of just the offense not really working this year or this game. And I do think DK might be banged up still. I don't know if he's 100%. And again, JSN kind of taking advantage of, DK going out there for a little bit, and then he kind of, I feel like it's a temporary thing, but he kind of supplanted him as Geno's favorite guy in this moment, and that just hasn't like unhappened yet. Like it just hasn't stopped happening. I don't think that's a permanent thing. Plus, I mean, Tyler barely gets the ball anymore. There's enough for both of them to eat. I think it's just the DK connection isn't working at the moment for those myriad of reasons. Him being hurt, the offense in general being kind of stinky, and Geno going out. So
the amount of concepts is so sparse in just that they're straight up passing concepts. There's like 2, 3 they run in a game.
Yeah, and then
they don't dress it up very creatively.
The reason, and then when they do have the odd good game, which like Arizona last week was a good one, it's because they'll have this random infusion of quick game, and it will be just enough to like, because they're sitting on what they're expecting from the given formations, right? Mm-hmm. And like, oh, we weren't expecting quick game, and so then quick game will give them some life for a game. But if they were to do that every week, they would get keyed on as well.
Or like against the Jet. Or was it the Jets was the Jets game where they ran all that duo?
Yeah.
Like the Jets game, they I think caught them by surprise by playing quite a bit of under center and running so much duo out of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like...
Right. Well, okay, so that's the under center. Like, what are they doing under center, man?
This game they barely used it.
Yeah, they barely used it, but I don't understand in the Jets game going from, hey, we're going to run duo literally 9 times.
Right.
And then going to the same under center formation, 2x2 12, and then running power 5-6 times off that same look, and then not using duo at all.
And then this week, your only like under center run that I can remember is George Halani in garbage time and a duo under center run. Like what the
to the strong side, mind you. So that was strange. So now then the one play action thing they did hit downfield was off of the weak side zone red action, which it worked. I think someone busted the coverage. I just don't think they realized where Tyler was, but it worked. I'm not going to complain about it, but like they're still faking weak and running strong out of under center, which is, I don't understand how like that to me is such a glaring like red alert. How is no one on the coaching staff being like, yo, look, Grubb, or even Mike, like, what are we doing here? Like, this is high school. I mean,
and their gun play action. Obviously, Geno got hurt on one of the players, but just generally, it's not synced with the run game well.
Yeah,
which is harder to do in shotgun, obviously.
So with all that said, like, what that means your offense is Geno trying to slice and dice in shotgun pure drop back with a really bad O-line.
Right.
You can't. Right. There's nothing to lean. You're leaning on a quarterback being a stud in the pocket, snap after snap after snap, with bad protection, and with receivers that can't win jump balls, which they're still good at other things, of course. And it's like that isn't sustainable. We're seeing that.
You mentioned Geno Smith, Griff, but obviously, if he can't play next week, we don't know how severe this knee injury is. Mike McDonald doesn't know either. Yeah. If he can't go for a couple of weeks, that will mean that Sam Howell, who John Schneider traded for this past offseason and kind of kicked up a bit of a storm over whether Howell could be the Seahawks starter, he is now the Seahawks starter, if that's the case. Griff, in this game, he went 5 for 14 with a 1.7 average and a 1 pick. He was also sacked 4 times. It's not really fair to judge someone who's so rusty and coming into a game and hasn't had any reps with the ones. And there's so many things, like a guy who's just not expecting to get a snap then is thrown into the game. At the same time, Howell did not look particularly good. And he looked very much like a Sam Howell that we saw in Washington, where it was just sort of try and desperately run right and heave a ball and hope someone's down there.
Yeah.
It's I think it might be quite bad. And yeah, oh dear.
I was surprised he held the ball that much. Like, just Sam being Sam, just wanted to rifle something, but that kind of speaks to guys probably weren't open. Like,
yeah, true.
I mean, and when you've got DK Metcalf, JSN, and Tyler Lockett, and guys aren't open, like, again, who do you point to? Not that it's always that simple, but.
And then he was doing that thing of like looking to his left and then just going, okay, I've read the coverage here. Whether the window's there or not, I'm just going to try and rifle it as hard as I can to the guy on my right. Like, he threw an almost pick doing that, trying to look off, while the curl linebacker, who, with the quarterback looking away, is already packing his curl zone tighter to that side, is just waiting for him to do that. And then on the second pick, on the seam on 4 verts, he just straight up just threw it blind. Just like, it's cover 2, fuck it.
Yeah, right. I don't think he even saw the curl defender dropping under it. I don't think he saw him. But you know why? Because he's 5'11", man. Like, it's hard to play. It's hard to play quarterback. I mean, that's why we didn't. That's why we didn't and still don't see Russ and Kyler make a lot of those throws. It's because they're smart not to make it because they know they can't see anything there. They only throw what they can see. Credit to Howell. He'll throw it even if he can't see it. But I mean, like, we're not supposed to conclude anything from this. It's Howell coming in the middle of a game. He's not the starter. He's not ready. Blah blah blah. Bad O-line too. You know, the offense is in disarray. We're not going to evaluate anything, but it does show like there's the demonstrable difference between him and Gene.
And he was under a lot of he was in a lot of poor pockets as well. So just to wrap up on the offense, baseball watcher with a donation, thank you, asking you, Griff. Your stance has been generally to run it back with Grubb. Do you still feel that way?
Thank you, Baseball Watcher UK, for the donation. Appreciate that. I mean, I don't think that really has been my stance. I have said, like, on principle, I don't like firing offensive or any coordinator after one season. So, like, you know, to be consistent with that principle, I mean, I guess even though I, like, you know, yes or no, do you approve of the job Ryan Grubb has done? I would answer no, but that doesn't mean I necessarily think they should move on. But if they do move on, I'm not going to cry over it.
I think you will.
I will happily accept what's his name, Tanner Engstrand from the Lions, assuming Ben Johnson doesn't want to take a head coaching job again, but that won't happen. So I don't know. I think that there's a real chance they do move on from him if the offense doesn't improve. If the offense stays at this course, then yeah, I think that they will move on. That's just my hunch.
Mm-hmm. And I should be feeling a bit more positive, really, in that they found a gun run that they like, but it's just the lack of, like, it's been like 3 weeks of having, like, interesting runs that actually got yards, but the lack of stuff off that is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Along with all the other things we spoke about. Anyway, let's not talk about that anymore. Let's talk about the Seahawks. Well, firstly, the opening kickoff made me think that this team wasn't ready because it was a massive game, and the fact that the Packers managed to get it to their 37-yard line, taking it out of their own end zone, that had me slightly concerned, and it was flat. We also have on the similar topic about it being flat, we have a nice donation from J-Amp. Thank you, J-Amp, saying, I personally know 6 Green Bay fans in Seattle that went to the game. Seattle has become a melting pot, and that home advantage is lost for good, I fear.
Yeah, that might be right.
Hearing "Go Pack Go" after when the Seahawks were on offense, and then the broadcast talk about maybe having to go to a silent count is embarrassing.
Yeah.
And the organization needs to probably do something about, like, how it works in soccer is your club you all have to be members of the club, right? A paying member, and then you can transfer it to a fellow member who's like a family or friend. Like and then it's face value. It's going to another fan of your team. Like it's just it's the whole thing is a farce, and this was like the biggest game of the season. Like if they'd won this, it'd have been season defining, and they didn't have the home field advantage really. And I feel bad also for the people who, and I know some of you watch this show, you pay a lot of money to go to Seahawks games. You probably have a great time still, but it must also, I mean, I remember going to Seahawks game in 2016 and getting stared at by people for wanting to shout when the Seahawks won defense. It must be very weird being surrounded by Packers fans in a seat where, I don't know, if you'd watched them in 2013 or 2012, it'd probably be all Seahawks fans around you.
Right.
And there's a whole separate issue about people being priced out. But yeah, Griff, there's something they've got to think about, I would suggest.
Yeah. I don't know what all you can do that, but other than make the seats cheaper. So I don't know.
Yeah, they are too expensive as well. But anyway, it's
like make people disinclined to want to sell them, or
though
at the same time, would that attract more people, more out of towners? I don't know, more transplants. I don't know. Tricky.
There you go. Henry saying the Packers fans are louder than us. This is the first game where opposing teams fans are dominating us. Interesting. But Griff, going back to the point about the opening kickoff, but just overall, and like the magnitude of this game, are you concerned about Mike Macdonald as a head coach? Wow, that's quite the start to a question. I've got a bit more to add on to that. That's not the question. And his ability to maybe get guys up for like the really big games, because this isn't the first serious one that they've not turned up for.
No, I mean the offense turned up against the Lions on Monday Night Football, right?
That's true.
I don't think it's a matter of that. I think the defense kind of getting its stuff together in the second half a little bit, at least the run defense was a good sign of like their grit and stuff. I don't think that's the issue with this team. I mean, really, I think it was, I think that there were some minor signs in the Cardinals game that kind of pointed to this game going the way it did defensively. I only say that with the power of hindsight.
No,
I did mention the run defense last week.
I don't think it was hindsight. Yeah, I think you did say that.
I mean, it was run defense and deep ball variance. Like we said, like whoever wins. Look, Green Bay won that battle, and those were tightly contested, right? Green Bay was just slightly better going deep. And then also you can make your quibbles about the PI. Like I really hate underthrown PI, but that is what it is. Still, Green Bay got the better of the air yard explosive battle, right? And they ran the ball when it mattered in the first half primarily. So that's kind of that's the problem there. But yeah, Matty, what did you think of the bad run defense?
Well, yeah, McDonald was obviously very disappointed with how they started, and all the coaching staff spoke of an importance of stopping the run first in midweek. Ernest Jones said after the game that they like every time in the NFL, and this is something Bobby Wagner's talked about before as well. Like NFL offenses will come with a set of new plays, and if you don't stop those new plays, it's going to be a long day for you. And that is kind of what happened to Seattle, where Jacobs had a ton of touches, not a literal ton, but he had a lot of the touches, the lion's share, you could say, in the first two drives. And the Packers kind of moved the ball at will, and them getting up 14-0, while the Seahawks offense went, was it 3-and-out? No, it was a 4-and-out. That just was a terrible start to the game. And the times we've seen this team like win games has been when the defense has started red hot, or they've had maybe like last week against the Cardinals. They give up an opening drive touchdown, but then they start hot. They start getting picks. The offense has never been like that impressive, but they've managed to score from good field position and stuff, and the defense has kind of played lights out. We said that wasn't a very sustainable way of winning, and, you know, the defense will start slow at times, I think. Against good teams will score opening drive touchdowns, but ultimately it needs more complementary football to take place, and I don't know if the offense is capable of that. But you asked me about the Seahawks run defense, and I am a bit concerned. I do think though it was a bit of McDonald getting it wrong, like getting the ideas wrong. And I think what's encouraging, of course, is that second half where, okay, they do give up 10 points, but for a lot of it was just a field goal, wasn't it? Like the last touchdown was, the game was over. It was a pick
So
from
when you
Howell.
s- when you say get it wrong, like what do you mean by that? Do you think they should have rolled the safety down more run tools, more slanting, more stunting, or run
Well,
blitz?
I don't know necessarily in what way he got it wrong without watching the tape, but it's interesting. Ernest Jones saying afterwards that mechanics up front was a reason, because Greg Bell of the Tacoma News Tribune asked him if he felt Jacobs was running at him, and that was the issue. And he said, nah, I think it was just mechanics and things we were trying to do. Our feet weren't set in the ground. We were moving around and not set in the ground.
Yeah.
They were ready to go play. We were trying to do too much, trying to change things, and just weren't set.
Well, what
So
is that?
that implies McDonald trying to do too much. But then Julian Love's comment to about Jacobs getting to him very fast, and just looking at some of the clips, like that 3rd and 3 Jacobs run, they're in like a 2 wide 3 technique front with like a
Yeah.
very light looking box, and they just give up inside zone, and the Packers will do that.
What?
There's like
Go.
it's a kind of a blend of everything where
Yeah.
McDonald kind of called things a bit more dialed in to stop the run first, which is odd that wasn't doing that in the first half. Or maybe he was, and I'll find out. But you'd expect him to have, given that was their emphasis in the week. Anyway, sorry, you have
No,
stuff to
no,
say.
don't be sorry. So I think the way I take Jones's comments, I think that they played a really good front in the Packers. The Packers offensive line is really good. And I
Yep.
think the Seahawks had a lapse in the relationship between the D line and the linebackers with the primary secondary shit again.
Right, because you were critical of Ernest Jones, particularly in that first half, right?
I mean, like either not getting to the perimeter in time, which kind of shows his lack of long speed when the play isn't boxed in for him. His lack of
Right.
athleticism really shows up. That's why, like, I've been pretty firm about him being like a tier 2 linebacker in the league, which is still worth like 10 plus million a year. Don't get me wrong, but he's just not in that elite tier because he doesn't have the speed. So when he's surrounded by other players that aren't doing their job, like he's neutralized effectively. But then also, I think he had some trouble falling back into the right gap at the right time, like the pacing and timing of it. With the defensive lineman also not reading it, like them were trying to work back at just the wrong second or working back a little too early, and then the running back squirts out front side
Right.
again. Like they were getting creased, and they were playing a front that is like really grown up, that really can get you on that, can make you wrong and punish you for it when you try to play a little fast and
Mm-hmm.
loose with, am I the A gap or am I in the B gap type of thing. So the one way you remedy that, when like you got to stop the bleeding, just roll that safety down, everyone line up to their win on
Yeah,
the
it did feel that they played a lot of too high. Well, they have been this season, right? But it felt they weren't really rolling that safety down in the first half in particular. I'm interested to see if that was changed in the second.
yeah. Me too. Because they did get it together, and we did see that one line. Leonard Williams, TFL was off of a line slant out of Bear,
Mm-hmm.
and slanting toward the C gap. Let's build the whole boat out of that and see what happens for this defense.
And Julian Love also spoke of McDonald changing some things with how he was calling it in the second half.
Right, especially on first down. Like you honestly, the first Cardinals game, because the Cardinals do a lot of specific things offensively. McDonald had the most detailed game plan like I've ever seen him like come up with. Like even watching Baltimore, like it was awesome. And then this game, it kind of felt like he was just trotted like, oh, we're just gonna play our defense. But like Green Bay, like they get the ball rolling on first down, man. Like they do all their worst stuff to you on 1st and 10.
Mm-hmm.
And he just seemed content to be like, we'll just line up and play, which can't really do that against this team.
Yeah, he only really actually got aggressive when it was or like, called in a play that he uses to stop the run as well, which was like a double-edged pressure playing like cover zero when they got like in an and goal situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more about, and that was still out of nickel, I think. And it's more about, as you say, like entertaining more base, right? And more like bear and movements and stuff, and maybe rolling a safety down. And yeah, it's like he kind of misunderstood what Green Bay was going to do, I'd say.
Yeah, and maybe overconfidence because they had been playing so well. I mean,
Right, and like
maybe
a
a
lot of
part of
that
this
had
game,
come from the D line getting incredible knockback and just wrecking crap in the
right?
trenches, which we spoke of. Like a lot of the too high fits with D line just making incredible plays. But as you mentioned, Griff, this Green Bay O line is a different level to what Arizona is able to present, what New York the Jets have.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah. So and then Ernest Jones kind of had a rough game in coverage a little bit too. Things crossing his face.
hmm
I think Knight had some wonky plays. And then like Woolen got beat 1-on-1, Witherspoon got beat 1-on. I mean, they just didn't have their best game, like on an individual level. Um, part of that is because they found themselves in balanced situations on second down. Like 2nd and 5 against the Packers might as well be 1st and 10 in terms of what offense Green Bay can access. You need to get them in 2nd and 7 so that you can put all your chips in one basket defensively. And that just wasn't what they were able to do. So really, I mean, they really did lose the game on first down,
hmm
unfortunately.
And I did feel as well that a lot of the Green Bay attack was calling the runs that are schematically problematic for Seattle, which it sounds obvious to do that, but not all teams have done it, and not all teams have executed it as well as Green Bay did. And I did get the sense that Tyrese Knight was struggling and perhaps being targeted. Like a lot of Green Bay's runs felt like they were to the boundary, the short side of the field, where Knight often finds himself. It's not all about one player, of course. There's a lot of things going on there, but
yeah,
Knight had a game where they were doing a lot of motions and shifts, which Ernest Jones acknowledged was slightly different to what they'd done in previous weeks, and there was a lot for the linebackers to try and unpick. But Knight already kind of is still learning, his where his eyes need to be and the keys and the speed of the NFL game. And I think today that really kind of played on that learning curve for him. So, well. But that's the one thing I think we can take from the game, that the defense did solidify, including Reek Woolen, who, I mean, he's good for like one or two plays a game where a receiver gets behind him and you're like, oh, he just completely like I don't know what it is, lost concentration, lost focus, just thought the ball's not getting thrown here. But the receiver gets behind him and then he runs after the receiver and the quarterback doesn't throw the ball that way for whatever reason. But Jordan Love is the type of quarterback who will throw that deep ball, and
yeah,
he did twice, like for big ones, where it's very hard, even with how Green Bay was running the football, it's very hard to score touchdowns without explosive plays, and Woolen gave up two. Well, no, he gave up the one where he thought like the receiver was. I didn't think he thought the ball was going to go there, but it was sort of him squeezing.
yeah,
And then he gave up the defensive pass interference, right? And then he
yeah.
gave up the slant to Dobbs on like a physical type of route, which was the touchdown.
Right. Yeah. So rough.
Not much more to say than that.
Yeah.
But encouraging that it kind of chilled to. But then the Packers were running the ball. They weren't really. I don't know. What do you think of the game? Because it got crazy in the fact that it was within 10 points, and suddenly
Right.
the broadcast is like, "Oh, it's always weird. It's always weird in Seattle, and like something could happen." And yeah, like did you ever have a belief that they could turn it fully around with
Not
Sam Howell at
really.
quarterback?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
I do appreciate how Howell didn't really give us that much hope. Like when Seattle got the fourth down stop, he immediately was sacked, and then on the second and 16th threw an atrocious interception. That's very nice of him. Like, man,
Yeah.
don't mess around with us here. Don't play with
Um,
us.
yeah. I is what it is, man. So does it feel like the season's under the assumption that Geno is okay? Well, let's just make that assumption for the sake
Okay.
of discussion. Does it feel like the season is on the line? Playoffs is on the line against the Vikings?
Well, if I flip that on its head, if they beat the Vikings and they beat the Rams, they have a 98% chance of making the playoffs.
Right. But if they lose, they can still go 10-7. They can beat the Bears and then beat
right.
the,
But am I correct in thinking that what happens if they go 10-7 is they end up really regretting that loss to the New York Giants, because that's like very important for tiebreakers on the Washington, right? And then someone else will have beat the Giants probably because they suck.
Yeah. See, what I have to what we have to remember is no matter what, I think it's going to come down to the wire. We first year with a new coach, just wacky shit happens, man. Like just the whole season is just weird. What happens in year 2 and year 3 is like not going to relate at all to what happens in year 1. Like it's like week 1 in the NFL like means nothing, has zero predictive power in any direction. Like even week 2 has like almost no predictive power. So I think we just need to let the results, whatever happens, wash over us. Anything good that happens is gravy. I
like
think
gravy.
Me too, man. I do think they get slaughtered by the Vikings, but then I think they slaughter the Bears, and then I think they give the Rams a fight. And I don't know if they win or lose, but I don't know. That's how I see the rest of the season going. How do you feel?
And this is presuming Geno's health.
Yeah, I mean, if Geno's not healthy, then forget it. Like, it's whatever at that point.
Is Monjombo in here? Monjombo is in here. Monjombo, what did I predict in the predictions thing? I think I might have...
I think you tried to snipe me.
No, I didn't try and snipe you. I said the Packers would win this game.
I think
I know ball.
24-23.
Did I say 24-23? And what did you say for Green Bay? Yes, guessing. We're back. We're cooking.
I think I said 25-23 Seattle because I'm a true believer.
Okay, whatever.
God, I hope Geno's okay.
OG3, don't you guys think the rule on the quarterback hit is dumb? No flag because Geno's feet weren't planted. I don't know.
I don't know.
It was quite unfortunate because it was almost like the guy's helmet hit into it as well. It's just a weird play. I think the real lesson is don't let like 2 rushes clean up the A gap.
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna have a really hot take though. If I had to choose between last year's, this is not commentary on what the fallout would be, okay? But if I had to choose between last year's team going into the playoffs or this year's team going into the playoffs, would have chosen last year because last year's offense was on a really hot streak to end the season. And then this year, I feel like they could have won a shootout in the playoffs last year, like maybe win one really dumb game.
Right.
But this year, I don't feel like if they get into the playoffs that their defense is going to be enough to overcome their own offense. And I don't think they win any playoff game this year.
Well, the thing about the defense as well is, and this second half was really impressive in the main. But we spoke about this with McDonald coming to Seattle, and that is against Shanahan. He's very good at kind of like a bend and don't break style, and then gets the takeaways, and it's really impressive, right? Like that's what he was doing in Baltimore. But like if you looked at the efficiency per play, it without the takeaways, it was pretty bad or good for the offense. That was kind of the case today against LaFleur, where there was a lot of efficiency, and they didn't have the takeaways. And where I'm going with this point, I think, is just in general this season, like efficiency-wise, Griff, if you remove the takeaways, they give up quite a few chunks. They're like middling. They're not like an elite defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like even over this last stretch. But if you add in the takeaways, that's when they become.
Don't ban them. No, keep them around. Do not.
That's funny. Who's the player?
We'll move over. Oh, that's a Green Bay fan.
Oh, it's Green Bay.
Okay.
Oh.
Damn it! I was hoping it was someone from Seahawks Twitter. That was
What player is it though? Looks like a cool one.
Is that Kuhn?
Oh my gosh, that is unacceptable.
No, definitely ban Justice.
Yeah, Justice, you're in timeout, pal. Anyway, I was explaining a really convoluted point on how basically the defense gives up chunks and kind of feels a bit like managed decline, but then they get kind of splash plays that have fixed things. But turnovers inherently, even though you're doing a good job forcing them and causing stress to force them, right? And you have to credit McDonald for his ability to do that as a play caller, and I think he's done a great job with the defense in year one.
Well, wait, hold up. Packers fan, we're not trashing your team. We said you guys are good.
Why are you engaging?
Hey, Packers fan. If anything, we're on your side here.
Yeah, you can stick around.
We're go Pack go till the end. You're right. Yeah. You did embarrass us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll send you some cheese curds.
Anyway, Griff, takeaways are inherently streaky, and I think basically what I'm saying is the offense is so poor, even with the talent that they have. And we kind of cautioned on this.
Yeah. Hey, Packers fan, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can leave a tip in the tip jar. Stick around. Find a seat. Get comfy. Okay.
Pull up a pew.
Yep.
But we cautioned on this that basically what the defense is doing isn't very sustainable, particularly against like playoff caliber opponents, and it to the level that they were playing, right? And the takeaways they're getting, like scoring pick sixes in back-to-back weeks, that's not a thing that's easily replicated, or that you should expect to replicate. Yeah. So,
hey, Jack, kill him with kindness. Send him compliments. Tell him how great his Packers are, and he should be proud of his little team.
OG3, that's right. So
that's
Griff,
right. You're
just, but Griff, your take that you'd take last year's team over this team is crazy.
I would just rather lean on the offense. I mean, watching this offense, man, fucking sucks.
But the defense last year was atrocious.
It was atrocious. It was so bad. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I mean, the defense last year was worse than the offense is this year. Granted, but I do think that offense matters more. Hey, Matt LaFleur has great eyebrows.
What podcast are you on? You're disgusting.
Anyway,
yeah,
Monjamo, he probably did fire Matt LaFleur.
And Griff, how many games do they win then with all that stuff said if Geno's out for the rest of the season?
They probably get swept. They probably lose to the Bears even.
Wow.
Just because, I mean, the Bears actually kind of a pulse on offense right now. And you can't forget, like, they still have a good defense. And they play well at home. Like, their defense is not bad. It's regressed, but it's still kind of good. That's not. I think they win with Geno, but it's not a gimme. So,
my thing as well is like last year, Drew Lock was able to win that game, right? Did he play another game? How many games did Drew play? Did he win 2 or did he just win 1?
People forget the Seahawks beat the Eagles last year with Drew Lock.
He only won 1 game, right? He went 1-on-1. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But the offense right now, and how they built the whole thing out, where they focused the most resources in the off season, and then the preseason and then the beginning of the regular season, just how they've moved the ball, it's built around the quarterback being a guy, like being a pocket passer who can drop back so many times and vary tempo and kind of coordinate the whole thing back there. And it's not fair on Sam Howell to ask him to do that, but I think it's sort of a hellish match. And you know, for a normal coordinator, I would have confidence in their ability to adapt to that, like the Seahawks did with Drew Lock when they somehow pulled it off against the Eagles. And obviously we saw the limits to that in the following week. But with Grubb, I'm fascinated to see what it looks like, because I don't know. Are they really going to ask Howell to drop back like he did at Washington so many times?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess. Anyway, anything else on the Seahawks? Chat, have you got any more questions? It's great to have so many of you in here. We have Christopher saying, just to thank you for being calmer than I am. Merry holidays. Thank you, Christopher. Merry Christmas. Merry holidays to you too. J-Amp saying the defense were definitely not ready for the first few snaps. Yeah, that and the opening kickoff, like the whole team just didn't feel ready. They just got beaten the crap out of. I think there's something to that too.
Yeah.
What are the odds Grubb gets fired tomorrow? Asks Fats. I think low, but he won't be back next year. But isn't that ultimately JS's call at this point?
I think that if he gets let go, it wouldn't happen until like mid-January. I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Well, that's kind of soon, but it's not happening till the season's over, if it happens at all, is my opinion.
Fats, I'd give you I'd bet if there were odds for Grubb to get fired tomorrow, I'd bet on it, because I could, that it's not out of the realms of possibility that they like watch the tape and they like have an argument, and that's that.
I mean, yeah, we have to remember that interpersonal relationships breaking down means a lot in the NFL, and then interpersonal relationships remaining strong can also keeps guys' jobs alive when maybe they should be let go. That happens all the time. So, I mean, I don't suspect that there's a bad interpersonal relationship among the staff, or like the coach in OC and coach in DC and all that. But I mean, who knows? Maybe. I mean, we have no idea. Ryan asks, what would y'all take away as any positives from today? Yeah, I like that question, because I don't like just dwelling on the negative. I mean, Charbonnet ran pretty well. Good for him. And then I do think that the run defense in the second half correcting, that they were able to correct in real time, is a good thing in and of itself. So that's where my mind goes. What about you?
We have already talked about those things as positives, I guess. But yeah I agree. Michael Dixon his back is okay, and he had a good punt, which was on 4th and 5 when the Seahawks needed to score. So, and it was the first time I think Mike McDonald's been booed by the crowd for his decision making. But he forced a muff, which the Seahawks didn't recover. But yeah, good for Michael Dixon.
Yeah, agreed. Man, did we lose our Packers fan already? That's too bad.
Yeah,
I was hoping he should tune in every week. It should be like
I hope so. We tune into Packers stuff every week.
Yeah,
because we like that team so much. Fats, thank you for the donation. I get the sense part of the problem is McDonald is an incredible defensive coordinator, but he's sort of failing at being a head coach in his first season. Issues on offense is evidence. I think it's very difficult getting the balance, and that's the sort of thing that you'd hope. And I think it's fair to expect that balance is... I mean, it was never going to be perfect from the jump. But that's obviously something he's going to keep working on, something he'd acknowledge he's working on. And then it'd be fair to expect in the second season it's a bit cleaner. But he must have opinions on football that and how he wants his offense to look. I mean, he said he wanted it to be really physical. It was interesting in the week when he was on the radio, he's asked about why teams don't do like guard tackle, like counter or wrap the play of the pullers out of the shotgun as their main run. And then this week it kind of was their main run, although they can only run it against certain looks. But anyway, you know, I'm sure he has had some input, but I do wonder, you know, Leslie Frazier was the key kind of hire in that spot for as like the in between, and it'll be. I'd love to know. We'll never know, but what type of job is he doing? Is he doing a good job as the guy in between all the spokes on the wheel, like connecting everything together?
Yeah, that will always be the big. It's the one unanswered question with Mike McDonald. What does he actually think about offense? It takes a while for
other than like physical, like actual,
which means nothing. That doesn't mean anything. It would be very. I wonder if whatever goes on in this off season, if it's a reflection, like a very pointed commentary on what Mike thinks about the sport in general. Because like the only mandate we got this in this season that we kind of can parse as a Mike thing was run the ball more, but I think that was not necessarily run the ball just to run the ball more. I think it was him kind of saying like wink, wink, nudge, nudge with regard to under center.
Mm-hmm. When Chicken Chaser mentions, does he meddle in the offense at all? I think running the ball, definitely. If you look at how the run rates increased so dramatically, and also the under center, like how it suddenly appeared like early in game scripts as like almost, I described it as heavy-handed. It was so kind of crude and obvious, and like, oh, suddenly we're doing this now. That spoke of someone having a word, and now it's gone again.
And because it's so bad when they do it, it definitely feels like Grubb doesn't want to do it, like it's against his will. I still don't understand how 90% of your runs are to the strong side and 90% of your play fakes are to the weak side. It's the most unserious thing I've seen, man. I don't get it. And to put that in perspective, the Seahawks, this is going back to 2015, the Seahawks under center play action numbers are the worst they've been by adjusted net yards per attempt and EPA and success rate, all of it. Justice says, seemed like it was tough for you guys to throw to the outside receivers once the Packers bottled up your guys' screens. O-line didn't play great either. Yeah, like there was nothing in the dropback game. This game, it was working the sidelines and
like spamming snag a million times. I imagine.
Right, and like the Packers play quite a bit of cover 3, right, in zone. So you're trying to see if you can get someone pinned down, and they hit the corner one time.
Yeah, they busted it once, and then for the rest of it, the Packers just pushed with the fast 3 because that's what cover 3 teams know, that guys are going to run snag on them. And also they didn't have anything holding them to it possibly being a run, so they were getting out really quick in their zone drops.
Yeah. I don't know what was going on over the middle of this game. I'll be really curious to see on tape because that seemed to be working a little bit the past couple of games.
Well, remember what we said before when we were previewing this game. We mentioned how against this type of defense where they kind of spot, it's like a spot drop cover 3, Grubb has issues. Like if it's a bunch of wide cross, I'm going to tear my hair out because that's what he did against the 49ers.
But we saw so many like hitch dig combinations against Arizona. Like where did that go? Where it was?
Well, he didn't. Did he call them against the Jets? He didn't, did he? Like it's like
he did. Remember we were watching it. Was it Sherwood, whatever his name is? He was shutting it down, playing the high low.
Oh yeah,
was stacking his hook, but yeah. Anyway,
lots of problems with the offense.
It sucks. They don't. It doesn't need to be this bad, but whatever it is. So.
Oh, also shout out Chris Collinsworth saying the Packers going under center in 3rd and short was why the Seahawks pinched their D-line down, and that would free up the perimeter, and it would be a good call. And then like Leonard Williams knifed through for a tackle for loss. And the Seahawks always pinch their front down in third and short situations to like a 6-2, 6-1 look, which is stout on the edge against the types of formations they get, but also the 4 interior tight defensive linemen are very good at wrecking stuff, and they've got a number of stops from that and forced holds and stuff. That's like their best look is their third and short run front. But yes, they do pinch the front down for the quarterback sneak from under center, but Collinsworth took that in a very different direction. So
yeah,
that was a sarcastic shout out. Anyway, do you have anything else?
Absolutely nothing. Matty, watch Children of Men, dude. You'll like it.
Do you know what I watched? So today I watched Cincinnati, Tennessee.
Did you enjoy that?
Well, there were 10 turnovers.
Are you talking college or National Football League?
I'm talking the National Football League.
Okay, wow, that's a lot of turnovers.
There were 10 turnovers and I think like 20 penalties.
Wow.
25 penalties. It
That
was
sounds
insane.
Sounds like an unwatchable product.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And then I watched Detroit Buffalo, where they're playing a different sport. Like, watching those offenses, it's a different sport.
And such a contrast of quarterback skill, too. But
right, like, Josh Allen is bionic, whereas I kept thinking Jared Goff was going to do something stupid, and he was just lights out.
Yeah, just dig route after dig route.
Yeah, he zipped like a frozen rope, 66-yard touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown, where he just the weak hook was pure like QB vision, and he absolutely smashed it down there. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Type of stuff Geno could do, by the way.
Angstrom, what's up, man? Where you at? Come on over.
The Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson tree, is that like the Sean Payton derivative? Is that a thing?
Yeah,
but it's not, because it's Ramsey, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting about how to characterize that, because it just seems like they copied 2018 Goff, but a run heavy version of it with some gun runs in there, but then obviously Campbell coming from Peyton and him being a former tight end. But I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, their run scheme often looks quite Peyton-y / yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, anyway, let's get out of here. Watch Children of Men. We'll reconvene.
J-Amph donated again. Thank you, J-Amph.
Thank you,
Did
sir.
the Packers take the foot off the gas in the second half, or did our run defense get better? Also, chat, if you keep donating, we have to keep streaming. Yes, Griff.
I think it was both. I think the run defense did get better, but Green Bay was probably, like you said, managed decline. They were trying to drain the clock.
And that's an important point of caution, I think, J-Amp. Like, we saw that first half, Green Bay absolutely destroyed Seattle. They came ready, and Seattle was not ready. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Great to have so many people in here, even after defeat. For those of you who are more familiar with Seattle Overload, such as our new Packers fan and Justice, we'll always try and stay balanced and fairly reasonable on the team. The sky isn't falling, but as I put in the thumbnail, as I designed the thumbnail, as you can probably tell, it's a reality check, isn't it? So,
thumbnail.
Thanks, man. Hopefully Geno Smith's okay. Hopefully we're okay. But let's all stick together. Griff, we always have one another.
You sure about that? Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Listen.